Hello to all my dear students. So today we are going to finally start with the last second chapter, which is biodiversity and conservation. This is a very simple chapter which you have to mainly focus from NCERT. As well as on this chapter, we are going to study the importance of biodiversity and how and why we should conserve it. So basically this whole chapter is based upon what is diversity, what is the importance of diversity on earth. If it is so very important, then we should conserve it and how to conserve it. Correct? So these are the basically questions which will be answered while I will be teaching you this chapter. So what are we waiting for? Let's directly start with the chapter. The first thing which you have to understand is what is biodiversity? What do you mean by this term itself? So basically, bio means living. Diversity means different form. So there was a scientist called Edward Wilson who explained this term biodiversity. He said that all different forms of living organism found on earth, be it human, plants, insects, any living organism, all make biodiversity. So how will you define this biodiversity? Chalo, let's write this answer then. So basically, biodiversity is the different forms of living organisms. Different forms of living organism on earth. The term was explained by scientist Edward Wilson. Right? Now, this biodiversity can be defined at three levels. So basically, there are three types of biodiversity: genetic diversity, then your species biodiversity, and then your ecological diversity. First, we are going to talk about species diversity. Species diversity means that different forms of variety within the same species, and this arises due to different allelic combinations of the gene found in one species or another members of the same species, creating different diversity. Like for example, mango has almost 1000, no, all mangoes coming in the market, they are called as Mangifera indica, but you know that there's so many different varieties of mango available. So basically in all mango varieties, genes are same. However, their allelic combination varies, which creates different varieties within the same species. This is known as species level biodiversity. Rice in India itself, about more than 50,000 varieties of rice are also found in India. So first is species level biodiversity. So what is the species biodiversity? Species biodiversity simply means arrangement of different alleles within the same gene of the same species. Arrangement of different alleles of the same gene, creating varieties, different strains within the same species, creating varieties within the species. Example I already told you, like for example mango, all different varieties of mango, they are called as Mangifera indica. The species is same, but due to different allelic combinations of the same gene, the variety, the phenotypic character of the same mango changes, and hence they all are called as different varieties. Second is genetic level diversity, which is called as genetic biodiversity. Sorry, this is genetic. The first which we have done, this is genetic biodiversity. That is arrangement of, just make a slight correction. This is different alleles of the same gene creating different varieties of the species. This is called as genetic biodiversity. Now second is your species biodiversity. If I have to define this, what is species biodiversity, beta? Then what is species biodiversity? Like for example, it is said that the more number of amphibians are present on the Western Ghat as compared to Eastern Ghats. So depending upon the temperature, depending upon the environmental conditions, depending upon basically the abiotic factors, there is different distribution of species which varies from area to area. Some area may be more dense in terms of species diversity, some area may be less dense with respect to species diversity. So species diversity means different types of species found on Earth. So what is species diversity? Different types of species across the Earth. Now, third is ecological diversity. How will you define ecological diversity? Ecological diversity means, again, depending upon the temperature and precipitation. Like if I talk about India, India is a tropical country and here the sun rays are highly variable from one part to the other part. For example, if I talk about towards the central India or towards the southern India, sun rays are almost same. The entire year, the sun rays are almost same, creating a uniform kind of temperature which is warm and humid. But as we move towards the northern India, sun rays, they are more towards summer, but during winters the availability of sunlight decreases, and as a result there is some rain snowfall also observed on the Himalayas. Then comes the northern plain, then there is some region where there is no precipitation called as desert. So this is all in India. You see that within the same country, due to difference in temperature and precipitation, there is so much variation and we see different kinds of environmental conditions, we see different types of ecological diversity. But similarly, if I talk about a Canadian country, or if I talk about Norway or such areas which are present at the top of the Europe, their sun rays are almost same throughout the year. They receive very less sun rays. As a result, temperature over there, the precipitation is mainly snowfall, and they all are showing same kind of vegetation due to very less variation in temperature and precipitation. So Norwegian country, Switzerland, all these regions of Europe, they show less ecological diversity as compared to India. Correct? So ecological diversity means presence of different types of ecological conditions. Like for example, India is rich in ecological diversity, having so many different ecologies, rich in ecological diversity. So these are the three different levels of biodiversity. Now we are going to proceed further in the chapter, and now you're going to see that how many species. Now you have seen what is biodiversity, but now you have to see how many species are actually there on Earth. So basically, it's a very difficult parameter. There are so many species, some unicellular, some multicellular, some hidden inside the deep forest, some exposed. So basically, Every scientist who is related to counting the number of species on earth, they are just giving you a rough estimate that how many species are found on earth. If you remember chapter 1 of class 11th Living World, there you have seen that according to 2004 report of IUCN, the total number of species recorded are nearly more than 1.5 million, and approximately 1.7 to 1.8 million species have been recorded. This number is simply those species about which we have the idea. However, even more than this, the species are still undiscovered. That if I say 1.5, more than 1.5 million species are known to us, then just imagine more than 1.5 millions are yet to be discovered. It is said that number of species are more in tropical regions as compared to temperate regions. The only reason why the tropics have more number of biodiversity simply due to sun rays. Sun rays, they are more received on the tropical region. As a result, the variation in the temperature is less. They are less seasonal, they are more predictable, they are not subjected to any kind of catastrophic condition like glaciation, etc., which is more frequent in temperate regions. So as a result, species flourish more in tropical as compared to temperate. There was one more scientist called Robert May who said that nearly 7 million species have been recorded. So these are the data which you have to remember. Then beta, it is also said that if 100% of the species what we know, then out of those 100%, 70% are only animals. Nearly 22% are plants, which include algae, fungi, angiosperms, gymnosperms, all. And remaining are invertebrates. The remaining are basically bacteria and other microorganisms about whom we do not have any data. And it is very difficult to gather data for all these prokaryotic bacterians. Correct? Yes or no? So shall we write all these points? Chalo. So the first point says, according to 2004 report of IUCN, more than 1.5 million species have been recorded. More than 1.5 million species have been recorded, yet the data is not complete. There are so many species which are still undiscovered, still unknown to us. And where are more species which are still to be discovered? So tropics are rich. Tropical regions are richer in terms of biodiversity. They are richer in terms of biodiversity as compared to temperate region. So as compared to tropics, temperate are richer, as compared to temperate, tropics are richer in terms of biodiversity. The only reason behind is the three reasons. Number one, more sun rays. More sun rays means more temperature, more rainfall. Automatically condition become more favorable for species to flourish. Second, they are less seasonal. Tropical regions are less seasonal, more predictable. They are not subjected to catastrophic condition yet again and again. Less glaciation is observed in tropic countries as compared to temperate. So all these things favors the growth of species in tropics as compared to temperate. Now, next what I said is Robert May. So there was a scientist called Robert May. Okay, let me just add a page first. So there was a scientist called Robert May estimated that 7 million species are discovered. Estimated 7 million species on Earth, which is again absolutely, it's just a rough idea, not an accurate, not an appropriate answer, just a rough idea. Depending upon some of his observation, he must have given this specific number, out of which beta 70% are animals and more than 22% are plants. प्लांट्स में फंजाई, एल्गी सबको इंक्लूड किया हुआ है. And remaining are prokaryotes whose data is not under our control. We cannot count the number of microorganisms because they are so single-celled and they keep on showing variations in their arrangement that it becomes very difficult for the microbiologists to keep their record. Now, out of this 70%, it is said that 70% of animals are insects only. That means out of 10 animals, 7 will be insect. So we have more numbers of insect. The arthropoda group insecta is more flourishing on Earth, and it is said that out of 100% of animals if we have, then 70% are only insect and 30% the remaining organisms comes. Right? Will you remember this data? Yes. Okay, remember beta, this whole chapter is based on data only. You have to make sure that you remember each and every data which is given in NCERT. Now NCERT gives this pie chart explaining the different organisms and their importance in terms of number on Earth. This pie chart is for invertebrates, where it is C. Can you see? It is simply telling that insects, they are most dominant invertebrates, and almost 70% of the chart is under insects. Remaining are mollusks, crustaceans and other animal groups. Talking about vertebrates, then fishes, they are most prominent, followed by mammals, birds, reptiles and amphibians. Coming in plants, almost fungi and angiosperms, they are occupying the same levels and in the pie chart. However, mosses, ferns, algae and lichens, they are very, very less in number. So this pie chart is very, very important. All the three pie chart you should know, and from anywhere questions can be asked to you. So you should be all the time prepared to answer them. Correct? Okay, now let's proceed further. Now what is the pattern of, now I have already told you that tropics are more dense in terms of biodiversity as compared to temperate. There has to be a reason. Already, okay, ma'am has told you the reason, but let's discuss over here once again. So pattern of distribution of biodiversity mainly depends upon the latitude. Latitude means lesser the latitude, more the temperature, more the rainfall, more is the biodiversity. You know, the latitude of tropic is lesser than temperate. Temperate are more away from equator. Tropics are closer to equator. So whatever region is closer to equator receives more sun rays. More sun rays automatically means more rainfall, more temperature, more biodiversity. Now temperate is away from the equator. They receive less sun rays, or they receive slanting sun rays, because of which lesser temperature prevails. Precipitation is mainly in the form of snow, so it is not suitable for different species to flourish. One example is given in your NCERT which is related to birds. It is said that lesser the latitude, more the birds will flourish. Correct? Understood? So here that I have taken the example, you have to learn, you have to remember, but whatever I have told you right now, I will write on the screen as well. So latitude means lesser the latitude, more the sun rays, more the sun rays means more temperature and rainfall. As a result, better for growth of biodiversity. Better for the growth of biodiversity, right? Have you all understood? So that is why tropics are richer in terms of biodiversity as compared to temperate regions. And here one example is given you related to birds. Let's read it. Now, okay, now it is said that tropics whose latitude is 23.5 degree north to 23.5 degrees south harbors more species than temperate or polar areas. For example, Colombia, which is actually your Sri Lankan capital, which is located near the equator, has nearly 1400 species of bird, while New York at 41 degree north has 105 species, and Greenland at 71 degree north has only 56. So you can see as you're going away from the equator from 0 degree to higher latitudes, distribution of bird is declining, right? India, which is very much close to equator, it is a tropical country, so it has nearly 1200 species of birds. Correct? Understood? So this simply explains you the distribution of different organisms depending upon their latitudinal degrees. Right. Now, what is the reason? I've already told you, but let's do it once again. The basic reason behind for tropics being more favorable for species diversity, number one. So I have to write the reason first. See, temperate regions are more exposed to glaciation, are more prone to glaciation, which do not promote. Glaciation means melting of glaciers, formation of glaciers. This keeps on happening in temperate region, and once the glaciers will melt, the sea level will rise, and so many regions will drown. And if suppose again glaciers are forming, then kind of stable condition is not observed in temperate areas as compared to tropics. Second, temperate areas are more subjected to, or you can say they are less seasonal and less predictable. Are and less predictable. So making them highly unstable, letting not growth of biodiversity taking place. Now next is species area relationship graph, which was explained by a German scientist, Alexander von Humboldt. He said that up to a certain limit, when area explored is increasing, the biodiversities, the species richness keeps on increasing. But up to a limit, after that, the same species will keep on getting accumulated. And on this basis, he has plotted two graphs. One graph which is coming linear, and second which is coming as rectangular hyperbola. Right? The graph which is showing rectangular hyperbola has an equation given in exponential form, and the graph which is showing straight linear line is having equation with respect to logarithm. So what is species area relationship? So according to scientist Alexander von Humboldt, what he said, more species, more area explored, more will be the species discovered. More area explored, more will be the species discovered. but this is only up to a certain limit, but only up to a certain limit. Correct? Yes or no? On this basis, he gave an equation. The equation says S is equal to CAZ. This equation is given in exponential form, and when you plot the graph keeping x-axis as area, y-axis is species richness, then it is going to come in rectangular hyperbola. S stands for species richness. C stands for the y-intercept. Z is the slope of the line, which is regression coefficient. And A is the area explored. Now, if the same equation you take in logarithm form, then the equation will come to be as log S is equal to log C plus Z log A. So when you plot line on the basis of logarithm, it is going to come as a straight line. And if you are going to plot the graph for this exponential, then it is going to come as rectangular hyperbola. Have you all understood this simple concept of species area relationship, which was tried to be explained by Alexander von Humboldt? He simply says more the species, more the area. But of course, up to a limit. After that, if you keep on increasing the area explored, the number of species are not going to increase. So this is all about species area relationship, which you have to remember. Now moving ahead, but just, okay, something got rubbed over here. No issues. Okay, now let's proceed further. And next is, now you have seen what is biodiversity, types of biodiversity, and how many biodiversity different species are found on Earth and their range of distribution depending upon latitude and area explored. Next is importance of biodiversity. Why are we simply studying about biodiversity? So the importance lies in the stability of ecosystem. It is well said that more the biodiversity in your ecosystem will be more stable. Stable means it will be resistant to the catastrophes. It will be more resilient. Resilience means if suppose some catastrophic condition comes, then of course the nature, if it is rich in biodiversity, then it will overcome that situation very fast. Resistant means first ecosystem will not let that catastrophic condition to arrive. If suppose it arrives, then nature or ecosystem will very easily overcome that condition. So for resistance and resilience, ecosystem should have more biodiversity. More biodiversity means more biomass production, and more biomass production means directly related to stability. More species is very, very important, but nowadays we are not paying attention to this, and we are just practicing deforestation. We are just hunting and poaching for our economic benefits. We are cutting down trees. We are killing animals for some leather and some other ornaments and for some other economic benefits. We humans are simply exploiting the biodiversity, and we are keep making all different species reach the verge of extinction. Slowly and steadily, every day the biodiversity number is decreasing, making our ecosystem less stable, more prone to catastrophe, less biomass production, and all these things are actually harmful for us only in upcoming future. Correct? So let's read a stable community. What is stable community? Stable community simply means a community which should not show too much variations in the productivity from year to year, and it all depends upon biodiversity. A stable community वो होती है जिसके पास ज़्यादा diversity है species की, ज़्यादा biomass production है, and this should remain same from one year to another. It's not like, okay, Annual production of biomass this year is 150 billion. Next year it changed to 100 billion. Then next year it changed to no. This is unstable community. Why this decline in productivity is being observed? Due to decline in the biodiversity, right? Second, it must be either resistant or resilient to occasional disturbances, maybe natural, maybe man-made. So ecosystem will only be resistant, will only be resilient if ecosystem has more number of species. And ecosystem must also be resistant to alien species invasion, because alien species, what they do, they start killing the native species, and due to one species you may lose 10 species, which is totally not acceptable. Very clear example was explained that the relationship of species diversity and ecosystem stability was explained with the help of David Tillmans' experiment on long-term ecosystem. David Tillman found that a plot, an area which is more rich in species, have more productivity and is less prone to catastrophic disturbances, either natural or man-made. So basically, this David Tillman with his long-term ecosystem experiment simply proved that yes, if the land studied is more, then it will be lesser prone to catastrophe. It will have yearly constant biomass production, and that ecosystem will automatically will be considered as a stable one. So you have to remember this paragraph. Apart from this, there was one more scientist called Paul Ehrlich who gave his rivet popper hypothesis, considering ecosystem as an aeroplane. So let's try to understand what was his concept. Paul Ehrlich actually compared ecosystem with a plane. So suppose this is a plane, okay? Now he said that this aeroplane is an ecosystem. So aeroplane will have seats. Yes or no? All the seats are attached to their position with the help of rivets. Rivets are basically the nuts. Wings are also attached to the plane with the help of some rivets. So these are the rivets of wing. And these are the rivets of inside the aeroplane, making the seats and all. So basically what he said that if suppose two people travel in the flight, and once they come down from the flight and they remove these rivets from the seat, if one or two person are doing, then it is not going to disturb the functioning of the aeroplane to a greater extent. But suppose if every person traveling in the flight, when comes down, takes these rivets, they take out the rivets and they take it home, then after certain time all the seats, they will become disbalanced, and when next passengers will try to fly on the same aeroplane, they will not be comfortable, and it is going to destroy the normal functioning of the aeroplane, right? So these rivets inside the aeroplane are basically compared to the normal species of Earth, who does not have so much contribution in the ecosystem. So if one or two such species, they get extinct, then it may not affect the functioning of ecosystem. But if large number of such insignificant species also get extinct, then somewhere they are going to affect the functioning of aeroplane, which is ecosystem. Now suppose there is one very intelligent person who takes away the rivets of the wing. So even if one wing rivet is lost, same day your aeroplane won't be able to fly, and aeroplane functioning will then and there stop, even if one of the rivet from the wing gets removed. So basically these rivets of the wing are the keystone species, the very important species of the ecosystem, which is actually running the entire ecosystem. Like one banyan tree under whose there are 200 parthenium growing, different birds are making home on that banyan tree. Suppose you remove that banyan tree from that ecosystem, automatically all the sheophytes, parthenium birds will die due to lack of shade, due to lack of food, due to lack of home. So one species you removed, but entire ecosystem got disturbed. So that is called as the power of keystone species. So similarly, if you remove one of the rivet on the wing of aeroplane, automatically your aeroplane won't be able to fly. However, if one of the rivet of inside the aeroplane of the seat if you remove, then it may not affect immediately. लेकिन अगर सारे rivets हटा दोगे aeroplane की seat के, then it will have effect on the functioning of aeroplane. So these are simply the insignificant species whose one or two loss may not affect ecosystem, but if the number is more, then automatically it will affect. But these are the keystone species who play direct role in maintaining the functioning of ecosystem. If they get removed, it is absolutely going to affect the functioning of ecosystem. So have you all understood the importance of biodiversity? Importance of biodiversity is directly related to the stability of ecosystem. More the species, more is your ecosystem stable. And this was simply explained by two scientists, David Tillman and Paul Ehrlich. David Tillman gave his long-term ecosystem, and this fellow Paul Ehrlich gave his rivet popper hypothesis considering ecosystem as an aeroplane. Have you all understood till here? If yes, then for today we are going to keep it till here. Simple and short. Thank you for joining me, and the remaining portion of the chapter we are going to cover in our next class. Hope you all enjoyed this. Thank you for watching me. Bye bye everyone. Take care.